I've been following the riots closely, and it's just by coincidence that I happen to be in France just days before the riots broke out on the 27th of June. But I've been going to France for a long time. I have family there who live in the banlieue. And
explain to our viewers what the banlieue is.
Banlieue, it means suburb. Some people associate connotations with it, but there can be nice banlieues and there can be more rough ones.
Yes.
The race riots that erupted in 2005 were concentrated in the banlieues, and the ongoing race riots are happening now are also in some of the banlieues. It's my book Unmasked. The first language it's translated to was in French. When I went to France in 2021 to speak and to promote it, I was asked if France could experience something similar to America that America did in 2020 with the BLM Antifa riots. And at that time, I said yes. You have basically the same underlying variables that caused the George Floyd moment, uprising, insurrection, whatever you want to call it, riots. You have those same, very similar variables here in France, and give it time, there will be some moment, some individual who will be exploited as a cause for violence. And that happened on the 27th of June with the death of a police-involved killing of a 17-year-old French-Algerian youth in Nanterre, which is a banlieue in the Paris area. And it sparked 6 days of violence, riots, mass looting, by far worse than the 2005 race riots. So there's been 3,000 arrests so far. 45,000 police officers were mobilized by the second night. 1,500 damaged or destroyed buildings. And these buildings were destroyed through arson attacks and things like schools, police stations, grocery stores, transport infrastructure, housing, businesses, mass looting. At least 5,000 vehicles have been set on fire. So a lot of the riot videos were posted online by the rioters on Snapchat and Instagram.
Triumphantly, so to speak.
Yes, and you could see that it looked really like a war zone because vehicles were overturned on streets.
So, Andy, you said there's the same underlying factors in France which sparked this off as America and the BLM riots of 2020. What are these factors? It's not the unique sort of American history of racial tension, obviously.
No, that's a narrative that is exploited in the U.S., but in France, it's so primarily the same variable is a grievance within a population of a minority population. So in the U.S., it would be, I guess, Black Americans having a long history of grievance against the United States because of slavery and Jim Crow, the legacies of that, and then post all that, then what they claim are unfair policing in their communities, unfair systemic racism in the criminal justice system. So long list of grievances related to race. In France, it's slightly different but very similar. You have about 10% of the population being Muslim, primarily of North African origin, and most of them are of Algerian background. The history of the brutal war for independence in Algeria against France, that has been a long sort of grounding grievance mythos for French Algerian youth today. There are economic disparities, higher rates of criminality and violent incidents involving this particular demographic means there's more interactions with police. So you have many parallels to the situation in the U.S. and the shooting death of Nahel, the teenager, which happened during a police stop. So he was unlawfully driving this Mercedes. He's 17. You have to be 18 to have a driver's permit or license in France. He was pulled over by police, and he attempted to flee in the car and was shot dead. The officer involved in that has been arrested and is detained and will be prosecuted. But that incident was caught on video, so it was similar to how the George Floyd's last moments was caught on video and widely shared on social media. And there was already a long grievance against the French society, French state among this population, and now there's an excuse to go on the streets and rage